You were sold a story. They said grind, stash a little, stop at 65, and call that freedom. If 4 decades of effort conclude with a stipend too thin to survive, what name fits that? You were not created to toil until the end. You were not made to watch years slip by while you barter your spirit for a paycheck. The world does not prize compliance. It elevates the person who spots the snare and steps beyond it. And that person starts here. Listen with focus, because if you miss this, you may labor to the coffin and still leave this world broke. You assume you are free. You assume diligence will deliver. You assume that one day, perhaps after 40 years of service, if you stayed loyal, if you saved, if you played by the rules, you will be paid in full. I speak without apology. If 40 years of work ends in dependence, who exactly owned your days? I have witnessed it again and again. People who surrendered their best years to a role, arriving at 65 with a weary frame, a shaking wrist, and a nervous glance at the calendar because the balance is fading. They honored every policy. They kept quiet. They followed orders. They produced. They waited. And when the waiting ended, nothing waited for them. I ask once more, who possesses the life of one who gives it away, wage by wage, only to die unsure, constrained, and forgotten? Grasp this fully. Bondage changed wardrobe, not intent. The shackles are not iron now. They are woven from habit, from loans, from small expectations, from beliefs never questioned. You were promised the machine works if you comply. What you were not told is the machine was never built to enrich you. It was built to harvest your effort for someone else's fortune. I will not dilute my language. I am not here to cheer. I am here to rouse. Until you see your condition clearly, you will not step into liberty. You will grin politely while you misplace your years and label it duty. You will applaud the very hands that bind you and label it employment. You will await a retirement that barely pays the rent and label it safety. This is not mere misfortune. This is selection, which means it can be reversed if you dare to face it. Now, in this address, I will hand you the codes the wealthy studied while others slept. I will show precisely how Carnegie, Rockefeller, Schwab, Ford, and Lincoln rose from little. Not through luck, not through favor, but through harmony with truth and submission to law. You will learn why labor by itself will never grant liberty, why retirement is the prize of the compliant, not the sovereign, how classrooms are arranged to mold staff, not proprietors, why your position is not a strategy, it is a stall, how the affluent honor unseen spiritual rules ignored by the poor, how your rhythms assemble the cell you call a life, why delay is a foe and motion is the remedy, and how the one who refuses servitude becomes the one who directs. You will confront these inquiries. What is my existence truly yielding? Have I confused obedience with meaning? Why did I postpone the work of wealth? What must I end at once? What must I practice daily until freedom becomes tangible? If you are sincere, truly sincere, you will admit you are not free, not yet. But if you remain, if you absorb each word, if you repeat the methods and apply them exactly, you will not labor to the end of your days. You will craft a life that serves you. Say it plainly with me. The fetters live in your routines. The release lives in your thinking. And this is the last alert before time chooses on your behalf. Speak this now. I refuse to trade my years for pennies and die broke. I was born to possess, not to submit. Let us proceed to part 1. Labor alone will never set you free. You were trained to revere effort. You were told exertion is the solution. That if you punch in, stay after, serve kindly, keep your profile low, you will eventually ascend. But the truth is this: results follow leverage, not hours. Ownership, not employment. Systems, not sacrifices. Wealth grows from assets that earn while you sleep, from skills that compound, from networks that multiply, from decisive action measured and repeated. The clock is not your ally. Wages cap your ceiling. Value, equity, and control remove the ceiling and the leash. Begin correcting course now. Start today, not tomorrow or someday. Work alone will never set you free. You can spend 40 years powering another man's vision and still leave this world nameless. You can surrender your best decades to a corporation, an office, or a factory and still retire in lack, haunted equally by the ticking clock and the shrinking balance. I am not condemning work itself. I am condemning blind devotion. A man who labors without intention becomes an instrument. A man who labors without direction remains bound. And the one who labors without ownership remains in chains, no matter the size of his paycheck. Let me show you the difference between toil and wealth. Toil is motion of the muscles. Wealth is mastery of the mind. Most men exchange hours for another man's imagination because they never discovered this rule. Money answers to thought, not to time. A man may sweat for decades and still be surpassed by the one who dares to think in systems. One man digs the ditch, the other sells the spade. Tell me, which one ascends? The poor always point to sweat as proof of worth. They say, I worked hard. I never missed a day. Yet they do not see that reward is never given to attendance. It is granted to leverage. The one who uses focused thought to build what functions without his hands. Andrew Carnegie worked once and profited forever. He did not labor endlessly in steel. He engineered the structure that multiplied steel. He assembled vision, men, and process into one living empire. His mind became the mill, and from that day forward, his ideas earned more than muscle ever could. That is the hidden truth the laborer dies not knowing. The mind is the real machine of riches. But from childhood, you were trained otherwise. To link hours with income, to believe your worth is measured by time given. Yet time is a beggar's currency. It is the only treasure you cannot replenish. Every time you trade it for someone else's plan, you sell what can never be bought back. Here lies the truth. Men were conditioned to work, not to reason, to comply, not to create. And now they ache from decades of effort with nothing lasting to show. This is not injustice, it is programming. And programming can be rewritten. Stop believing that greater effort equals greater liberty. It never has. Freedom is born from ownership, of thought, of systems, of direction. Until you labor with design, not desperation, you will exchange life itself for scraps. Hear me. The man who never escapes the hourly exchange dies in bondage. Whether in a tie or with a tool in hand, if your time is your product, you remain an expensive servant. Yet there is another path. There is a higher law to learn, a new self to construct. It begins now. Declare it with force. I refuse to trade my life for scraps. My effort builds control, not dependence. This is where release begins. But do not pause here, or you will drift back into the same invisible cage. We move forward now. Part 2. The Retirement Illusion, the Reward of the Enslaved. You were told to wait until your 60s, labor in your youth, save a little, sacrifice this day for a future day. But when that future arrives, you are weary and your account is thin, and the freedom you imagined becomes only a memory you never lived. Retirement is the story handed to servants so they would not rebel. The truth withheld from you is this: you are not saving for liberty, you are saving to postpone collapse. The entire edifice assumed you would comply long enough to grow too weak to challenge it. They offered just enough safety to keep you from fleeing, just enough hope to keep you from questioning, and just enough fear to keep you producing. I state this without apology. The man who delays life until 65 was never truly alive. You think retirement is a prize? It is a tether. They name it a pension. I call it permission merely to endure. You were never meant to meet your later years with dread in your chest and arithmetic in your palm. That is not liberty, that is a sentence. And the only offense you committed was trusting a system never designed to release you. Let me explain how wealth actually functions. Not fantasy, but formula. Real wealth is not accumulated by hoarding, not measured by rationing, not handed at the end as a ribbon for obedience. True wealth arises from value. It is the residue of thought, decision, and the courage to step away from the assembly line. Consider Henry Ford. He did not stash his way to millions. He did not labor for another until 65. He created something that multiplied without him. He constructed systems. He saw openings where others saw posts. And because of this, his capital toiled while he slept. That is the divide between the builder and the waiter. The builder lives now, The waiter dies wishing. You were taught that postponing pleasure unlocks success, yet the truth is that postponing vision is decay. If your years orbit a prize that arrives only when you are too exhausted to savor it, you were misled. You want the truth about retirement? Here it is. Most never reach it. They die before escaping the wheel, and the few who arrive carry weak bodies, light wallets, and souls that forgot the feeling of moving with purpose. It need not remain so, but only if you shatter the lie today. Affirm with force, I do not wait for freedom, I construct it now. I refuse the retirement snare. My wealth begins today. The machine rewards the quiet. Part 3. Schools manufacture compliant workers, not wealthy owners. You were conditioned, not emancipated, trained, not truly educated. From the first day you entered a classroom, they were not teaching you to own your life. They were preparing you to serve another's. School does not mint creators, it stamps cogs. Think hard. What were you taught? Sit, hush, memorize, recite, comply. Lift your hand for permission to speak. Wait your turn. Learn the rules. Follow directions. Stand in line. Now ask, how many of those habits describe the lives of the wealthy? None. No one became free by obeying every other person's orders. The men who rose, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, stepped out of formation. They rejected the route set before them. They thought, imagined, questioned, and moved by conviction, not conformity. Consider Thomas Edison. He was expelled from school. Teachers called him unteachable, deficient. They told his mother he would never learn. What followed? He brought light to the world, not by schooling, but by belief, persistence, and vision. And here sits the great irony. The same structure that dismissed Edison now instructs students about him. The truth is simple. Schools do not teach creation. They do not teach imagination. They do not teach belief. They teach routine. They teach comfort. They teach compliance. They train you to repeat a story, but never to author one. If you desire wealth, you must erase the mindset that made you poor. You must uproot the false lessons planted by people who never broke free themselves. You must challenge the route. You must begin to think as your own master. Ask yourself, why was I taught to fear mistakes more than mediocrity? Why did no one teach me to build income instead of earn it? Why did no one speak of vision, purpose, or self-command? Why were the real laws of success, faith, imagination, organized planning, and definite desire kept out of every classroom? I will tell you why. Because obedient workers do not need wealth. They need only enough to keep breathing and returning to the grind. This is not a war against learning. It is a war against programming. Education becomes power only when it frees the mind. When it merely trains the hand, it becomes a cage. If you wish to rise, you must reprogram your thoughts. Study what the free men study. Speak as the person you intend to become, not as the one the system molded. Ask the questions they never allowed. Who profits from my obedience? Who gains from my hesitation? Who convinced me that my worth depends on grades, hours, or praise? The moment you begin to question, you begin to escape. You were never born to follow orders. You were born to issue them. You were not designed for desks and bells. You were built for vision and command. And if you reclaim your mind, your life will return to you. Say it with conviction. I think for myself. I challenge the path given to me. I was not made to obey. I was made to lead. Part 4. A job is a short-term bridge, not a lifelong plan. Let's be truthful, painfully truthful. A job is not independence. A job is not wealth. A job is not destiny. It is a holding place for the man who has not yet taken charge of his direction. You were conditioned to equate a job with safety. But I tell you, it is only a polite prison. The world urged you to seek employment, not purpose. It pushed you toward paychecks, not plans. It convinced you to aim for survival instead of building a life of command and abundance. Hear this, a job may solve your immediate hunger, but it cannot feed your deeper calling. Without a clear aim, a job becomes a tomb, a slow erosion of potential disguised as responsibility. You wake, you clock in, you labor, you clock out, and repeat. Somewhere along the way, your spark fades. You forget that you were made for more. I do not say abandon your job. No, I say this. Use it as free men use tools, not as your master, but as your leverage. Let it finance your freedom, not replace it. Consider Edwin C. Barnes. He did not despise work. He began as a clerk, yet carried one burning vision, to partner with Thomas Edison. He worked not for wages, but for position. He used his labor to enter the room. Once inside, he proved his worth and left the job behind forever. That is how wealth begins, not through endless repetition, but through deliberate intent and strategic direction. The tragedy of the modern worker is not his effort, it is his aimlessness. He sweats without ownership, strives without vision, and remains enslaved not by force, but by routine. Understand this. A job holds honor only when it fuels your independence. If you are still laboring just to survive, freedom has not yet begun for you. If you still wait for a raise instead of creating your own streams of income, you are not free yet. If your energy still fuels another man's vision while your own lies asleep, you are not free, but you can be. The gate is wide open, but you must stop bowing before the false god of security and start standing in the truth of ownership. Never spend your life renting your hours. Own your time. Direct your earnings. Use your job. Do not let it use you. Speak this with conviction. My job does not define me. It serves me. I use my work as a weapon for independence. Part 5. The laws of the wealthy are spiritual first. Let the masses chase cash. Let them rush for crumbs. Let them trade time for coins and sell their inheritance for wages. You, yes, you, must know what they do not. The principles that birth wealth exist in spirit before they take form. You cannot rise in matter until you ascend in mind. You cannot earn until you accept that you deserve. You cannot command until you align with the eternal rules that govern abundance. Not human laws, but universal ones. Every fortune stands upon invisible order, and when that order is violated, the riches vanish. You were told that money follows effort. I tell you now, money follows alignment. You must align your thought with belief, belief with speech, speech with action, and action with a structured plan. That is law. That is sequence. That is power. Observe those who built wealth from dust. Rockefeller gave not from superstition, but from understanding. He honored divine principle. He saw money as stewardship, not ownership. His empire was shaped not just by commerce, but by internal discipline. Andrew Carnegie surrounded himself with sharper minds, not from weakness, but wisdom. He lived by the mastermind law, knowing that riches gather where harmony, definiteness, and unified thought exist. Edison envisioned the electric light long before others could conceive it. He moved with certainty while mockers laughed, obeying the unseen law of belief. Faith applied to a specific aim. Do you grasp it now? Wealth is not born from labor alone. It is born from conviction. From spiritual alignment. Faith is not religion. It is raw force. It is the art of seeing the invisible as real, holding your picture of success so firmly that reality bends to it. And what of autosuggestion? The masses dismiss it as nonsense, but the rich know it as instruction to the subconscious. They understand that the mind must be commanded daily. The words you speak to yourself in emotion become programs your inner world executes. If you wake proclaiming fear, delay, limitation, you issue commands for poverty. If you rise declaring abundance, clarity, and will, you activate orders for prosperity. Wealth never obeys the one who moves without direction. It obeys the strategist. It follows the general who plans, who writes his goal, outlines his steps, studies them daily, adjusts and attacks again. These are spiritual mechanics: faith, definiteness, repetition, design. All precede money. That is why a poor man may sweat harder than a rich one and yet remain poor. He exerts strength without alignment, while the other exerts thought with precision. The thinker who moves according to law earns in 1 year what the worker may not achieve in a lifetime. You must therefore master these unseen principles, the first being the law of definite chief aim, the law of faith expressed through autosuggestion, the law of planning ordered by purpose, the law of the mastermind, the law of cosmic habit force, which rewards rhythm, not chaos. These are not philosophies. They are constants of existence. Break them and life will shatter you. Honor them and the universe bends in response. You must live under your own inner command. Rise before the world awakens. Speak your aim aloud. Write the directives for your own mind. Review them each morning and weave rhythm into every hour. This is not mysticism. It is the blueprint of every enduring empire. Wealth is never payment for effort. It is payment for alignment with law. Part 6. The habit system that forges financial servitude. If you wish to grasp the true shape of slavery, stop looking for chains and start examining habits. No man in this century is shackled by iron. His restraints are routines. Modern bondage is not upheld by whips, but by repetition, by rhythm that moves in the wrong direction. You rise, you eat, you labor, you rest, and you call that life. But whose life is it? Is it the one you chose or the one designed for you by men who profit from your blindness? The modern slave serves no master, he serves a cycle. And unless that cycle is broken, it carries him quietly to the grave, rich in exhaustion and poor in everything else. The chains are in your habits. At what hour do you wake? What is the first thought that enters your mind before the world begins to speak? Do you begin your day with self-command, or do you reach for a device and let others dictate your direction? When your body awakens but your purpose sleeps, servitude has already begun. Let's speak without illusion. You cannot live like the ordinary and expect results that are extraordinary. You cannot drift into fortune. You cannot stumble into mastery. You must command both, and command demands rhythm, deliberate rhythm. The poor man's rhythm is disorder disguised as routine. He rises late, eats without thought, consumes without creation, reacts without reflection, and repeats the same lost day year after year. This is the architecture of financial slavery. It does not feel like bondage, which makes it deadly. It feels normal. But what is common is not freedom. Widespread captivity is still captivity. The only difference is that the slaves are silent now. They sing no sorrow songs. They simply keep working, waiting, and hoping for a liberation that never arrives. Now look at the rhythm of those who built their wealth. Andrew Carnegie rose before dawn. He did not await instructions. He gave them. He planned his day the night before, declared his aims aloud, wrote intentions with precision, reviewed progress daily, and demanded the same clarity from every man beside him. Charles Schwab did not drift into command. He became a multimillionaire because he mastered structured rhythm. Each hour carried purpose. Every morning began in order. Every night ended in reflection. He lived by a single truth. What you cannot measure, you cannot multiply. Thomas Edison tested a single idea 1,000 times. Not because of chance, but because of method. His repetition was not random. It was measured. It was focused. Do you move with the rhythm of wealth? Is your day designed with intent? Do you track your growth or merely repeat motion? Do your actions serve a vision or only answer the noise of others? Do you think like a creator or a reactor? You must examine your habits, because your habits are your fate. Let me show you the rhythm of building wealth, the same structure I teach to those ready to rise above invisible servitude. Morning command: rise before the world demands your attention. Speak your definite aim aloud. Read your plan for the day. Declare your wealth affirmations with emotion and belief. Midday alignment. Pause and review progress. Speak aloud: I remain on course. My aim is strong. My focus is fixed. Correct drift immediately through deliberate action. Evening review. Measure what you completed, record your lessons, repeat your chief aim before sleep. Visualize success as if it has already come to pass. Do this daily without exception, without excuse. This rhythm alone will begin to rewire your subconscious, the true architect of results. Never underestimate it. Most men fail not from lack of intellect, but from lack of rhythm. The law of cosmic habit force is not metaphorical. It is mechanical. Every thought you repeat becomes a directive. Every act you repeat becomes a pattern. Every pattern becomes an identity. An identity produces results to match itself. If you desire wealth, adopt the habits of wealth. If you desire power, move with the rhythm of power. If you desire freedom, Live with the discipline of a free man. Do not say you're too old. Do not say it is too late. The instant you take command of your rhythm, life resets. Repeat these words daily. My habits build either freedom or chains. Each day I command myself into power. Now write your personal rhythm. Practice it tomorrow, then the next, and the next. Never skip, never drift. You are either forming the structure of liberty or strengthening the walls of servitude. Part 7. If you wait, you will serve those who didn't. There exists a law harsher than failure and more expensive than ignorance. He who waits becomes the servant of the man who acts. The world has never honored hesitation. It has never rewarded the timid. It has never handed its riches to those who pause. Look across every street, every industry, every field. The pattern never changes. Those who command it are not the ones who waited for a signal. They are the ones who moved while others debated, decided while others doubted, and acted while others were still thinking. Wealth is not drawn to intelligence, goodness, or hope. It gravitates to movement. It finds the hands of the man who steps forward when the air is unclear, who makes choices under strain, who claims his portion while others calculate the risk. You believe life will give you time? You believe opportunity will knock twice? Nothing waits. And the one who does becomes the laborer for the one who didn't. Abraham Lincoln understood this immutable law. In the darkest nights of his leadership, he did not linger in council. He advanced. When his country cracked, he moved. When outcomes were uncertain, he still decided. The Emancipation Proclamation was not signed when it was convenient. It was signed when it was required. He didn't wait for clarity. He created it through action. That is the nature of leadership. That is the mark of a free man. He acts and the world reorganizes. Most men fail not from wrong steps, but from no steps at all. They wait for confidence, for timing, for approval, for proof. They tell themselves the same lie. I'm still preparing. I'm being careful. I'm being patient. But understand this, waiting is not neutral. Waiting is decay. Each day you delay, another man builds, another man acts, another man claims the ground you abandoned. And by the time your courage matures, your opportunity will belong to him. Not because he was smarter or chosen, but because he moved. Your hesitation is your captivity. Your delays are your chains. I know the voice whispering excuses. I'm researching. I'm getting ready. But the wealthy know what the poor ignore. Patience only has value when it walks beside action. Patience without movement is paralysis, and paralysis is simply death wearing a polite mask. Study the pattern of every builder. None of them waited. Carnegie began poor but took action when others froze. Ford risked everything to mass produce when others mocked him. Edison declared inventions before they worked because he obeyed the higher law. Movement precedes manifestation. So I ask you now, what are you still waiting for? Are you waiting for the economy to change? While you wait, someone else is creating their own. Waiting for more knowledge? While you read another book, someone with half your wisdom is building double your wealth. Waiting for courage? Courage is not a feeling. It is an act of motion taken before certainty arrives. It is not something you wait for. It is something you decide. The tragedy of man is not failure, but postponement. He delays and delays and delays until the life he dreamed of belongs to someone else. Hear me clearly. If you wait, you will end up serving the man who didn't. If you hesitate, your children will labor for the children of the man who didn't. If you pause, your dream will rise under another man's name. You may call it patience, but the law of this world is motion, and those who refuse to move are crushed by it. No justification will save you from that truth. I do not speak to frighten you, but to wake you. The moment is now. The door's open, but not forever. Declare these words until they take root in your bones. I act while others wait. My speed is my freedom. Let no habit be slow, no voice uncertain, no dream half-lived. Move, decide, build. Part 8. The man who refuses to serve becomes the one who commands. Now we reach the summit, the point where every law, every truth, every warning converges into one: identity. Until you alter who you are, no change in your habits, your income, or your surroundings will endure. The world does not yield to the man who performs. It yields to the man who commands. And no one can command until he first refuses to serve. I do not speak of serving others, for there is honor in contribution, in creation, in uplift. I speak of servitude to fear, to routine, to wages, to mental captivity. The man who rises only to live for another's vision, who never writes his own, who waits for orders and buries himself in tasks without meaning, that man is not free. He is functioning, but he is not alive. And I tell you with certainty, he can be transformed. He must be, or he will remain what this system shaped him to be. A worker until death, a buyer until empty, a servant until erased. The dividing line between laborer and leader is self-command, not emotion, not wish, not even effort. Command, and command begins in the mind. The man who conquers his inner world no longer bends to the outer one. The world adjusts to him. The market reshapes itself to his value. People respond to his certainty. Wealth moves toward his aim because he moves toward it without doubt. Understand this truth. You can die as a laborer or rise as a leader. The difference is not in money. It is in mindset, in discipline, in decision. You were not born merely to work. You were born to build. You were not born to be instructed. You were born to direct. You were not born to obey. You were born to create. And if you are still breathing, still hearing these words, it means your time is not over. But this is the final gate. You must cross it or live forever beneath it. So what must you do? First, write your definite chief aim. Not tomorrow, now. Define who you are, what you demand from life, how you will serve others through your purpose. Make it clear, make it bold, make it written. Second, build daily command. Do not rely on fleeting motivation. Rely on unbroken repetition. Each morning, read your aim aloud. Each night, declare your belief in your wealth, your strength, your identity. Train your subconscious into obedience until your very thoughts carry authority. Third, build ownership. A man living from one paycheck is still in chains. Create systems, build value. Use your mind, not just your time. Let your labor fund your freedom, but never stop at labor. Build something that can move without you. And if you ever doubt this path, remember this. I walked it. I was the son of a poor miner in the hills of Virginia. No inheritance, no connections, no safety net. Only a voice, a mind, and a choice. I decided that I would no longer serve poverty. I would no longer serve fear. I would no longer serve the ignorance passed down by timid men. I studied the rich, not their luxuries, but their laws. I studied Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller, Edison, and I learned that they all obeyed principles invisible to the common man. They mastered thought, decided, acted, repeated, and the world had no choice but to remember them. By mastering thought, I became more than a circumstance allowed. I advised millionaires. I built a legacy. I passed on not tricks, but transformation. And you can do the same. But it begins now. It begins with refusal. Refuse to live as if powerless. Refuse to wake without purpose. Refuse to sell your hours for crumbs. Refuse to think small, move slow, or act weak. Refuse to die leaving nothing behind. You are not here to serve fear. You are not here to obey mediocrity. You are here to command. Let these final words become your creed. I will not be a slave to any man. I was born to command wealth, not to work until death. Now go, walk, speak, build, and live. Not as the man the world molded, but as the man you were meant to be. This is your awakening. This is your freedom. This is your new law.